Hola y muy buenos días. Bienvenidos a un episodio más de Somos Founders Podcast. Les saluda Edgar Navas desde Portland, Oregon, fundador de Click Digital. Hoy le doy la bienvenida de regreso a un gran amigo, a alguien que respeto muchísimo y además tengo una gran admiración, el CEO y fundador de Luminosity, Ángel Munoz desde Dallas, Texas. ¿Cómo estás, Ángel? Buenos días.
Muy bien, Edgar. ¿Cómo estás tú?
Todo muy bien, todavía aquí pasando un poco de frío, pero bueno, con mucho
En
entusiasmo de
Oregon.
que en
¿Cómo se dice
Oregon.
Oregon en español? ¿Oregon así o Oregón?
Oregón con
Oregón, ok.
acento, sí, sí, sí,
Ok.
pero bueno, ya se
Ah,
acabó el verano oficialmente, un verano
un poco
largo.
tarde en el año, ¿no?
Sí, 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 pero ya estamos aquí de regreso y yo tengo muchísimas ganas y agradecimiento también de que estés de regreso aquí en el
Sí,
show para que nos platiques qué ha pasado, todo lo que has hecho y bueno, es que tienes las manos en tantas cosas y tantas cosas que
sí,
además son espectaculares, así que queremos
sí, gracias,
escuchar.
Edgar.
Pero
Un,
danos un
un
poquito un recap, ¿no?
Pero primero un placer muy grande para mí estar en este programa contigo. Eh, a veces uno se encuentra con personas y hay una conexión inmediata y así es que yo me siento contigo, Edgar, y para mí es no solamente interesante, pero me encanta conversar contigo y tener estos momentos. Te tengo que hablar en inglés porque ya te has dado
Ya.
cuenta que tengo un acento muy feo en el español. Pero te entiendo completamente cuando hablas en español.
No, no hablas
So you
perfecto.
asked me, what things are happening right now with me and with the projects that I'm working on. This is a very, very interesting period for us, Edgar. You know, we took a different path to success, one that um, very few companies can do. And we can talk about that if you want to, how we were different in that sense. But I will just net it to you in the sense that we spent many years developing a technology that, frankly, it probably took less to create the technology to begin with
Yeah.
than the time that we've spent perfecting the technology. And of course, that is um, what's known as WebRTC, which is Web Real Time Communication, which is the basis, at least at the core level, of our new project that we launched last year called Beacon, and that you and I are on right
Yes.
now. We always tend to meet on Beacon. Why is it an interesting period for us? Is because we are moving from the research and development period, although uh, that never really ends. But at least
Yeah.
it's not the main emphasis of the company, into attempting to become an actual revenue generating and sort of standard corporation, but with ideas that still are very different from the average company. So
Okay.
I think when we announce all the projects that we have, that people will be surprised by how far reaching and also how we cover the entire spectrum and not just a narrow um, margin in our approach. We're not really
This-
a company that's profit motivated, or for that matter even revenue motivated, but we are a principle motivated company. As long as we can do good and then hopefully do well in the process, we're
Yeah.
sort of in the right spot.
How do you define that do good? I mean, what's good for you guys? What's your like focus? I
By
mean, what do you want?
definition, well, my
Yeah.
definition is based. My passion has always been science. That's why
Okay.
the parent company, is called Mass Luminosity. For those in your audience that have any background in astrophysics, they would know that mass luminosity is a formula. It's a mathematical formula by which you can determine the basically um, the size of the matter of a star by its brilliance. But it's only one
Okay.
class of stars that fall in, but it's the sun. It happens to be in that class of stars, but it's most stars in the universe are in that class. So if you wanted to know how much matter there is at the center of a
Of a
star,
star.
you will calculate that. So
Okay.
I find myself more comfortable using science analogies to communicate my thoughts than normal speech. So I would say that the way that we expand on the principle of doing well is first by augmenting the idea that people do not need to be particles, they can be waves. And as
Okay.
such, we as a company should be a wave. As we move forward, we should impact people, even inadvertently, in a positive way. So that's really how I would explain that. And not, I know it probably sounds a little like like a little cryptic, but it's really the way that I see it in my mind. Is we just want to move forward and have, that ripple effect of a
And
wave
have,
moving
like,
through a
go with the
surface.
flow. Yeah.
Not so much. The waves
No, not so
sometimes
go
have
with
to
the
go
flow?
against the flow. So
Well,
not
that
so much.
technically,
We're a little
yes.
bit like salmons in that sense. We have to go against the current because if we would have gone with the flow, we would have been a whole different company. So,
Right.
but at the same time, if you could imagine a wave moving through space, if it's so different than a particle, there is in physics the particle wave duality, where the same the same atoms, being photons are a good example, can behave as particles or as waves. So we know that duality exists in nature. I'm just applying it to human communication, human behavior, and human thinking. And as a company, if we impact people in a very positive way, we're operating more as a wave than as a
Okay.
particle.
Yeah. Right. And part of the communication is this, and again, something that I just remember vividly, and the audience is going to be able to see it. Number one, when they see the difference on the video, which we're recording this on your
Hmm.
platform, the crispness. But I mean, I was blown away with that exercise, and I remember vividly when you told me close your eyes, I'll make a sound, and it was just like a knock on the door, and I thought because I felt it, I thought it was like, whoa, this is, someone is interrupting the recording. Then I realized there's no doors around me, so that I mean that
Yeah,
part
we
of the
try.
communication, like I say,
Yeah.
that augmented almost reality.
It is a reality. So we strive, you know, different companies in the video conferencing field must have different goals because we don't see that much competition in the space that we're at right now. Our goal is to make these interactions as vivid and as real as possible so that you feel like you're almost there. uh, uh, our CMO, Kimberly Visaraga, and myself recently experienced this because we had met someone, a future partner of ours that we were going to announce soon, um, on Beacon, and then we met him in person, and it was so uncanny. It was like we knew him, because we
Yeah.
had spoken to him on Beacon before, and then when we met him in person, it was just like, I mean, he was identical as I imagined. And I think it'll be the same if you and I, or when you and I meet in person, you'll have, it's a different experience. And the way that we accomplish that is by emphasizing aspects of the experience that are pretty much ignored by our competitors, which have to do, as I explained before, have to do with number one is the quality of the
Yeah.
video. So we try to be at the minimum 1080p and the maximum 4K, although we are waiting for cameras. In fact, I was looking yesterday to see if there's any affordable cameras that we can do 8K so we can show in 8K resolution. When we have that, I'll invite you to see it because it'll take it even higher.
Oh wow.
Also, we worry about things as lip syncing, and for that you have to manage something called jitter. I don't want to get too technical about it, but it's basically packets travel through the internet at different rates, and video packets travel are more. There's more quantity than audio
Right.
packets, so they tend to arrive
Desynchronize.
desynchronized, and that
Yeah.
produces that. So we try our best to um, to um, uh, not only for them to try to arrive at time because they won't, but to soften the effect of that mismatch. And another thing that we worry about is also aspect ratio, which we, uh, if you remember, to me, the I don't know, Edgar, you may not be as old as I, well, probably definitely not as old as I am, but I don't know if you remember when televisions were square. They were
Oh, yeah,
not
absolutely.
rectangles. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 the
So
giant
so
square
if you
boxes. Yeah,
yeah, square boxes. And why do they become landscape? Why do they have that sort of proportions? And the reason why is because the eye perceives that more as it's like the painting that's behind you. If you look at the painting that's behind you right now, it's in landscape mode. And that's more natural for the eye
right.
because you see the whole thing. So
The
we
whole
went
spectrum,
there,
yeah.
right. And then frames per second, not getting too technical about it, but frames per second
Mhm.
are also important. We want to be 30 or higher. In fact, we think we can actually reach 60 frames per second, which will be unheard of. No one's even attempted to do that. And there's no reason in the mind of other companies to do it unless you're motivated by bringing this experience to be real. And then finally is the one that you mentioned, which is that we use 3D binaural audio. And it just to give you a sense of space, and the voice sounds a little deeper and all that. We just want
Yeah.
it's almost like the suspension of disbelief. We
It
want the
it it
person to
was.
think
Yeah.
that you're in the same room with talking to them.
It is
Almost,
just like that.
almost like
Like,
that.
I would call it ultra sensory.
Hmm.
It's something that, how do you feel audio? It goes way beyond surround sound. So yeah, it was something completely different that I've ever experienced. So definitely really excited to hear what the new features on the product, where this is going. And I've heard that you guys had an offer and you also rejected. So obviously things are going really well that you're like in that
Hmm.
position to say like, yeah, no, we're just getting started. So I don't know
That
if you
was
can tell us a
not
little
that
about
was
that.
yeah, it's I don't want to sound too heroic about that because that was a very tough decision for me to make because I have wonderful people around me. The second largest shareholder of the company that I mentioned earlier, Kimberly Visuraga, is a huge supporter of mine. I mean, we've worked together for you know, a long time. Not allowed to use numbers. I won't. And for, I mean, for a life, let's call it a lifetime of working together. And I know if I would have put any pressure on Kimberly, even mental pressure, I don't mean physical pressure, mental pressure, and saying, "Hey, we really need to sell. I'm done." She would have.
Yeah.
She's the second largest shareholder, and that's it. That's all we needed. And I didn't because I felt that I have to live with the consequences of my decisions. And the offer that you mentioned was for $80 million.
So not
Portion
yeah, not
a
good chunk
portion
of
in
change.
cash and a portion in shares in a publicly traded company, Nasdaq. And
Wow.
we said no. And we said no. It wasn't like it's the offer's too low. We said no. We don't want to do that right now. There is an advantage, quite frankly, for us being private at the moment. We can make decisions that a public company can't make. Like for example, I was
Mm.
telling you earlier about the long period of time that it took us to develop this concept. The board of directors of the company are also they, had a bit of an antagonistic relationship with the board for many years. And over the years, we found way to work together. My board is very sophisticated, includes, for example, the former CEO of Virgin Atlantic, or the former
Okay.
CFO of Revlon, or the former, he was the VP of Cognitive Enterprise for IBM. I mean, these people are, come from mainstream companies,
Yeah.
and I believe that there's been a transformation not only on their part but on my part of how to work together more effectively. And they have been so supportive, and they really drove the idea also of rejecting that offer for 80 million. So what do you do now is the big question. So
Yeah.
it's easy for me to say to your audience, oh sure, we're worth more and we're going to do great things. Mm,
Yeah.
you got to do
That's the
great
idea.
things.
Yeah.
So we think we are. We think we are. I know that you follow us and you keep your eye sort of on us. I think that the next few announcements that you'll see, you're gonna go, oh wait, I
Oh,
get it.
I see now. Yeah,
I
because you'll be
see
like
it. Yeah.
$80 million. I mean, that's yeah, that's gonna be hard to walk away from. But
I've done
yeah.
very well in my life, but $80 million is a lot of money. So it wasn't because I own 60 some odd percent, whatever the percentage is of the all the shares. So it wasn't a small amount of money. Kimberly owns 20 some odd percent. So for us, it was a big decision. And I can tell you with any question that when I wrote actually the board helped me write the rejection letter,
Oh, wow.
because
Okay.
yeah, they did not want me to negotiate. They wanted me to be just
Simply
sit.
no. So
Nah,
it was an unsolicited, bid?
yes. Mhm.
Okay.
And unsolicited. It was a group of investors that have been circulating around us for a long time. As we were developing Beacon, when Beacon was launched last year in summer, they started descending down, and by December they said they were going to make an offer. We got the offer in early this year. We looked at it, we analyzed it, we did all the work that we needed to do, and the end rejected it.
Wow. Yeah, no, but that's fantastic. I mean, for you and your team, I mean, that's,
Oh, I
ah,
mean, it would have been
just
fantastic to sell it too, right? What a
I
hell of
mean, it
a
would have been
party, right?
great, yeah.
I don't listen. I'm very careful. I'm a very superstitious person, and I do not want to minimize how great it was to get that offer, how validating it
Oh, I
was to
bet.
get that offer.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely, the validation, exactly,
mhm,
that's the right
yeah.
word to say, like, "Okay, so this is worth X right now." Somebody's because,
You know
especially
what's so
startups.
interesting about that is we knew what it was worth because my son works for a company called BCG, and he had done a valuation for us as a favor
Okay,
to me, and we knew that that number was correct. So the
okay,
80 million adding Beam to it was right, sort of. In fact, it was a little bit tiny generous, maybe by $5 million or something like that. But that's not it. That was just an enticement. So we knew
okay,
that it was the right. It was about the value.
yeah,
Our question wasn't about value. The value was correct at the time, but the problem is that the company has evolved dramatically, and our technologies have evolved. That the value was not consistent with the technology that we were bringing on
okay,
board,
okay,
and the
and
breakthroughs that we had in the process.
alright, can you talk to us a little bit about those breakthroughs, and how did that, yeah, that evolution, so what started as a platform, just for
Mhm.
communications, and now where, where it has been and where it's going?
Well, so again, it's based on the principles. One of the main principles of mass luminosity is the defragmentation. I know that you like that as a tech person. The
Yeah,
defragmentation of human communication. So, it seems to me and anyone, right now that everything's so polarized. We're now going through a
yeah,
political process and all that. So I just feel that life is more encompassing than just your views, whatever they may
r
be. And so I really would love for in this last chapter of my life that I'm writing, could be a long one. I'm not saying it's short, but it's definitely in the last chapter. um, I like to write a different story, the story of people who are, humanity that basically reaches out to other people. And in the process of thinking that, you have to go back to what are the obstacles for communication, and one of them happens to be language. As you and I are bilingual, we can communicate in different languages, but that is not, I mean, there's lots of languages. And that doesn't
right,
mean that if you had a guest from China, for example, that you could communicate with them. So what we did is we took existing translation technology, and we looked at it and we said, we asked ourselves, how can this be better? How can we make this better?
yeah,
And the first, I remember having this epiphany. So Theodore Atroshenko is our CTO, and him and I have lots of time to bounce ideas around. And one of the connecting, atoms that we have, sort of this thing, is the fact that he's Russian, and I've read a lot of Russian science fiction and literature, obviously translated to English. So we kind of go to the same pool for ideas, and inspired by really good predictions about the future.
Okay.
And one of them is, as you well know, is just, even on Star Trek, they have it, the universal translator, where you can stand on the go what the person is saying. So that was our goal. Well, present technology does not allow the type of interaction that you see on Star Trek, but you can get really close. And what we did is, first thing this is the epiphany I was telling you about. The idea was, what is wrong? Why is the technology not working? And then we realized that it was because of the algorithm's tendency to correct itself mid sentence. Humans don't do
Oh,
that.
no, no,
Human
no.
you I won't ever, or you for that matter, Edgar, start talking and then in mid-sentence go, wait a second, and start again from the beginning of the sentence to change the meaning a little bit.
Right. No,
and
we
and
just go
trans
with it.
and translation translators do it all the time.
I
So
didn't
what
know
if we
that.
repress, let's speak in human
Yeah.
terms, that desire from the algorithm to correct itself? What will be the results? Would it be incoherent, that we can't understand the translation? Will it be way off, or will it just be faster? That was a speculation. Well, right. It was. Is it perfect? No, but neither is human communication perfect. We make
Yeah,
mistakes all the
absolutely.
time, and we
All the
compensate
time.
for
Oh,
them.
yeah, yeah.
So what we have is a near now. You are speaking on Beacon, for example, so that your audience can imagine it. You're speaking on Beacon, and let's say that you were speaking Spanish right now, and I was speaking English. And let's say most of your audience is Spanish speaking. So as I'm speaking, my normal voice is lowered, and then the voice of our AI that's named Sammy is
Hi,
higher.
Angel.
There she is. Go
Oh.
go away. and, and I'm sorry about that. I don't think your audience will hear her. And so anyway, and then she will speak in Spanish. So your
Okay.
audience is hearing me talking low, but her voice at the same pace speaking in Spanish. And
In
we could do that
Spanish.
now with 12 languages. So
Wow. So obviously apply machine learning, AI, or
we don't have to do machine learning at this stage, although we
oh, no?
want to, and we're filing a patent for that because there's so much data on translation already out there that it's
Okay.
accessible. So there's incredible databases, IBM, Google, lots of people have
Amazon.
databases. So
Yeah.
we can bypass sort of the hard work and,
Right.
and just repress that desire of the algorithm to be constantly correcting itself.
Okay. Wow. And with that, just by tweaking the algorithm, you were able just to solve that portion. Um,
We have two ways of doing it. One, I cannot talk to you because we're filing a patent on it,
no, no, no. Of
and
course.
it's
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a real big idea. But by the way, not so incredible, because I've heard people discussing it. Some people that are in translation have figured out that's probably the only way to solve it. But I want to file my patent before they do. So
Okay.
because I
So
just
more
listened to
coming
an
soon. Yeah.
well, I just listened to the ex AI expert on Tesla in an interview, and he speaks about how to improve translation, and he nails it. He doesn't have the idea number one, but he has idea number two, and so we want to
Okay.
file a patent on that before we can talk about it. So
Before
next
Elon
time,
does. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, Elon is not. He's not involved with Elon anymore, but
Oh, okay.
uh, but he is involved with companies that are working on translation
On
models. So.
translation and like real time translation. That's what.
Uh, They think it can lead that way. I say that it won't, just by what they're doing. But
Okay.
by itself, I think they're going to run into the same problem. But then they're going to go. Maybe they'll have the idea of, oh, maybe if we repress this desire of the algorithm to constantly correct itself, then we can get there. But I think one and two must be together for it to be,
Yeah.
basically seamless translation. And we have named it interpret because it's like having an interpreter with you on a call.
Right. No, and I think, look, this is phenomenal, and obviously the first thing that we think about, uh, translations are the business world, how easy communications between, or making friends across borders. But to me, and because I know you already, your mission, number one, be inspirational. You said it, to us, being inspirational to the Latino communities, but also bring diversity and inclusion. And this interpretation, it just blows my mind how it could destroy the barriers that we have in communication. Just here in the U.S.,
I'm
for
so
example,
happy
the,
to
the
hear you say that.
inclusivity.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, I can go business, and oh my gosh, imagine doing business in China. But just coming back down to like solving a gigantic problem of inclusion, and this is just like I mean, the government, everybody would be all over this because
I
this
think
will
so. I think
eliminate
so.
that barrier. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
completely
our hopes that
democratize.
people,
uh,
technology is very competitive. There may be better ideas out there that we have not approached, but for now, we think we're at the cutting edge, and we've never seen anything work the way that interpreter works. Like, it's
No, and and
pretty amazing.
and
People
like I
that
said,
see it, have you seen the video, Ekar?
I have, and that's why, the first time I saw it, immediately in my head I was like, "Oh my gosh, this could solve, this
It's a
will solve."
disruptor. It's a disruptor. Yeah.
It
Mhm.
takes away with that, and we have so many examples, and laughable, but also sad at the same time, where we see government progress. We did a lot of them during COVID. We were helping, again, the underrepresented. How do we reach out to them? They don't have access to communications. The government doesn't know how to talk to them or how to reach them. And we see some of the programs, so some of the translations, and you laugh, but then you don't laugh because, like, well, this is an emergency. It's laugh at the moment, say, who did this? I mean, obviously,
Oh,
somebody
I
that
know what you mean. Yeah, I've
I,
seen that. I've seen that. Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
laughable, but then you're just like, well, I'm laughing right now, but that's not laugh, because then it's not getting to the person, it's not getting the result, and they're spending gazillions of dollars trying to do an outreach campaign or promote programs, or like do something, and it's ineffective. And why? Because they have a
Yeah,
poor translation.
certainly you're right that business is the easy sort of,
Low
you go
hanging.
right there
Yeah.
and you go, wow, that solves a lot of problems. You're ordering in China, you're talking to the person's you
Yeah.
in Mandarin. Wow, what a great thing. But I look at it from a different perspective. I look at it from the perspective of outreach people. I look at it from educational. You imagine, for even for somebody like you, uh, that you could there's Latinos all over the world, and maybe they don't speak English or Spanish.
Right, absolutely. I mean,
You
our
know what I'm
show,
saying?
our show, this is the number one. I mean, there'll be people, right, that'll be like, oh, this is
And
in
then
English,
and
I can't.
now if your majority of can you imagine, this is what the world that I see and that I would love to be part of making that a reality, that a person joins your podcast and it asks them what language you like to podcast in, and they select the language, and then they're hearing all the speakers speak their native language.
Their neighbor, yeah.
Sounds simple. It's world changing, because
It
all of a
is.
sudden all the final barriers of nationality and language start melting down. And when we start realizing, Ekar, that we are part of one race, the human race,
Yeah.
then things start getting a lot better for all of us.
And easier. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we've had these discussions that were race, gender, all these identity issues,
Hmm.
all these issues popping up. And when people ask me personally, uh, especially, like, uh, here in the U.S., like, well, how do we call you Latino, Hispanic? What are you mixed? It's like, I'm of the human race, man. I don't honestly don't see colors. I see what you do, who you are, how you speak, how do you engage, and if you're a good person or not. Period. I mean, I really, I
Yeah.
don't wave flags. I'm not like, ooh, look at me. It's
Neither
just,
do I. Neither do I. I think it's hard enough to be human than to try to then be something else on top of that.
Yeah,
And I have friends from all over the world and from every nationality, and I don't think of them as being different. I think of them of maybe having an accent because they are
yeah,
not proficient in that's the number one maybe thing that I can think of is a little different, and this would actually solve that.
absolutely. Yeah. No,
So
like you said, look, it's just mind blowing that we can do this now. Finally, break down those barriers, get to know each other. I'm thinking about first outreach, but then just solving a lot of the most common problems against racism, which is rooted in ignorance. Like, hey, ability to communicate with the people that
I think
you've
the
been told are
ignorance of
your
racism has a lot to do with isolation. I think that
yes.
once you start interacting, so Edgar, family, from my family side, from my dad's family side is mostly Jewish, and from my mother's side is mostly Catholic. And I've heard so many stories about the what Jewish people have had to go through
Hmm.
as far as prejudice and the anti-Semitism and the whole entire thing. And
Yep.
it's sad to me because my family, my dad's family lost everything back when Isabella and Fernandine expelled all Jewish people from Spain, and in their reconstruction is what they call it. And that's basically they're reconstructing the Catholic, because remember they were at a war
Yeah.
with the Moors, and then once they were able to expel the Moors, that the crown was in bankruptcy, so they
Hmm.
found an easy way to take people's properties away by focusing on Jewish people. And that just it's unfortunate because the Moors were very much like if you look at the history of the Moors, they came in and they wanted to elevate people's thinking. So they
Absolutely.
weren't the mean people that they're
No.
represented in the movies. They opened hospitals and universities, and then they put a
Yeah.
lot of Jewish people in charge because they knew how to read and write, because they had to learn, the Torah and
Yeah.
to learn all that. And two is because they were very industrial and very kind of far thinking. I'm just using them as an example, not to overdo this, but even in that sense, if it's hard enough for them to be identified as Jewish when it's just they just want to be humans.
Right.
They
Yeah.
just want to be humans. They want to be respected as human beings, and that applies to many Latinos, to many people from African descent, from many people that have alternative lifestyles. It's sad.
Yeah.
I thought one of the best logos I've seen is the rainbow that's used for a particular a range of lifestyles, and that's the way we should be. Everybody has their own frequency, but we're all
I
light.
like that. Yes.
We're all
Yeah.
light. So why have these issues? So if I can use technology, Edgar, to facilitate in any way the interaction, if I can touch one life and make and have two people become friends that they are come from outsides of the planet, yeah, I think I've accomplished my mission beyond money, beyond
Yes.
anything else. And that's what I would like beacon. That's what we call the beacon. Beacon
The
is
beacon of
a ray
light.
of light
Yes.
that needs darkness. If you don't
Okay.
have darkness, you don't need beacons. It only
That's
you need
true.
darkness for it.
Yes.
Like think
Ah,
about
I
a
like it.
lighthouse. That's something of light.
Yeah.
Has to be dark. So
And I don't think I asked where the name beacon came from, but now, yeah, I like that, because on a period of darkness or an age or position of darkness, this is your guiding.
Edgar,
Outside.
we are, I'll tell your audience this and quote me in another 5 years. We are in the beginning of the most powerful era for humanity. It is not the end, it's the end of the old ways, the beginning of humanity as a
It
global.
is. I'm also glad you said that because right now we had elections. People feel pessimistic. People feel I don't know, I'm angry, left behind. Yeah, I would say pessimistic, but to hear you say, we're gonna move forward, And why? Because communications. Because we're gonna take out blindfolds on a decentralized way. In a place where nobody's controlling what you see, what you hear, what you say, but you can actually make your own opinions. You can actually talk, have a
And that's one of the
conversation with someone.
reasons, by the way, for your audience that we may Beacon private, because we discussions uh, about changing the current system and making it fair for everyone are not best placed in the public domain, because you alert
Yes,
everybody that's going to be affected by that. So you
right.
want to have that privacy so you can speak your mind and know that only the person that you're talking to is the person
Mhm.
listening to that call, to what your thoughts are.
And I know, encryption was, huge, and we will have probably to think, what does that mean? A lot of people are, well, is that keeping my communications private, that nobody's snooping? And huge. It's also been a lot. We've seen a lot of startups right now focusing on privacy and security for those, particular reasons. Web3 best attributes is that, that keeps you from anyone just knowing what's happening, with your data.
Well,
And
yeah. So yeah, that those are the beginning of a new empowerment of individuality. We're already seeing it by podcasts.
Mhm,
I think podcasts are the first indication of what the future is going to look like, where everyone can have an audience and this evolves into something really beautiful, which is an internet that is completely interactive. It's not so much about pages anymore, it's about
mhm.
interaction. That's at
Yeah,
least the way that I see the web developing. And centralization of information, it sounds good on the surface,
mhm,
but brings a number of issues to it. So it's going hard for large companies to be able to wrap their heads around it, because they basically, when you are embracing, the next level of the web interface 3.0 or whatever it may be that is
yeah,
decentralized, being cryptocurrencies and all that, it just really is about no one owns anything anymore. That's where kind of it's going. So it's only like you're going to get the rights to use something. That's why subscriptions are up so dramatically, and we have one for Beacon, or we're going to be launching one for Beacon this month. So it really is an interesting future where you are not only a consumer of media, but you can become also, like you, Edgar, that you're sort of on the cutting edge, a broadcaster of media also. And you'll find an audience of people that are going to, they want to listen to these conversations. They want to listen how Latino leaders are making their decisions and all that. But I see a very beautiful future. I mean, are there concerns? Yes, there's major concerns, especially when it comes to the environment right now. I think that climate change is a big problem. And anytime, if you look at the five extinction events, main extinction events on the planet, only one of them is definitely not caused by climate, which was the Yucatan Peninsula
yeah.
impact of
The
the
meteor.
asteroid or meteorite. And
Yeah,
otherwise, but that changed the climate. So
yeah.
it was
I actually
indirectly
did.
the
Yeah.
climate.
Right.
But every single one of the five extinction events were climate based. And so this is a madman's experiment to put all this garbage into the atmosphere, to be bringing this stuff out of the ground. And I think that's concerning. I
Yeah,
do believe that the same thinking that produced that will not produce the answers. So we need to change our thinking. And the first thing
absolutely.
that we need to do is think globally and not regionally. These are not regional problems. These are not problems of the US, Russia, or China, or India. These are global problems.
Global.
So to think as humans and not as Americans and Russians and Chinese and
Right.
Indians. And that is, I'm just picking a few of the large nations with large populations. And so really this what we're providing Beacon becomes essential for countries to be able to talk to each other. and to understand what each other wants and all that, and all the features and all of the things that we've integrated in Beacon is to enhance that future. And we're betting on on that future. That's our bet. And if
Yeah.
I'm right, then no other product fills that particular need. Ours is the only one that was designed from the ground up to fill that need of humanity's needs. So
And
not
and I
not just a
see it.
company's needs.
Yeah.
So
No, and I know you have another service coming out on, pretty soon, coming up online, a new generation streaming platform.
right.
And
Mhm.
we're gonna tie this with, yeah, information or misinformation. How do you control misinformation? But tell us a
You
little bit about
don't. You can't.
well,
You
you
can't.
can't,
That's
yeah.
not the role. That's not our role.
Yeah.
You can't. You do, you can't. I would say, so right now we have Beacon, the version of Beacon for free that's out that anyone can use in our audience. So if they want to go to beaconx.com, X is for the free version. Then later this month, we have, oh, I'm not sure, but maybe 1,000 people sign up for Beacon Max,
Max.
and we're going to launch that. They're signed up because they're interested, not because they're signed up and have paid.
Okay.
So we don't know what percentage of those are going to actually turn into paying customers. But then Beacon Max comes out, and then when you sign up for Beacon Max, you automatically get are part of Beam, another reference to a stream of light, right?
Yes.
So and Beam is something you would use because Beam is built for recording and streaming live. So you can record your shows on Beam, and it's super high quality. Same principle, same engine that
Mm.
drives the Beacon experience drives the Beam experience. Beam is Beacon is sort of my baby, and Beam is Tier Atroshenko's baby. So
Okay.
and this is something he wanted to do, and and by the way, we are shocked by the response. Everybody is so tired with Twitch and the other solutions out there that my cat wants to be with me, and I'm gonna have her right here. And so your audience that is only listening, my cat, which is an Egyptian Mao, I knew that she would hear me talking, will want to be on, on
I
me.
feel like,
So
oh, hello. Yeah.
if I say no to her, she'll keep on going. She'll go from side to side until I pick her up. So her name is Sobenef, but I just call her Sobi. Sobenefru
Sobenev.
is the Sobenefru was the first recorded female pharaoh. So in history,
Okay.
yes, way like 2,000 years before the birth of Christ. Yeah. So,
Wow. Okay.
so she has I don't know how many people on this planet have that name. So I've resurrected a name that is almost 5,000 years old.
Years old. Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, no, I am very optimistic about the future. Very optimistic, Edgar. I think we can work ourselves out of these problems. I know people who are very committed of living. I've been tracking, for example, the waste that I produce
Mhm.
and all that. My God. So it's all about simplifying your lifestyle and making
Yes.
sure that that you reduce your consumption as much as possible.
Absolutely.
And I would recommend your audience to look at electric cars. I have two of them, and they're wonderful. So that's another way that they can contribute. There's lots of ways, and that's a conversation you probably want to have with Kimberly Visaraga, our CMO, who has a degree in sustainability and knows more. I mean, she forgets more than I know
Yeah.
about the sub. So,
Well,
so
maybe we can have her in the show too, because that'll be an interesting
absolutely,
conversation about. I mean,
absolutely,
sustainability to me. If we don't want to deviate too much to the course, but I've thought about it. As I grow older, and I, try to. For me, it's just consume less. We
right.
especially
Mhm.
here, and your platform will be great at delivering that. How much we consume, because once you start going to other countries, when you start, having friends from other places, like, you realize that we live in a hyper capitalistic, hyper consumerism society, that if you're not here, you don't realize how much we, number one, waste in every aspect, you know clothing, food's a huge one. I mean, we can spend, you know, hours and
Right.
hours with Kimberly talking about this, and
Yeah,
we've
he's
had some guests.
actually she's I would say her um and her wife Angela have thought about it and have and live she just built a house and it's so incredible to see how minimalist it is. She's always been a minimalist, so it's not out of character, but just trying to make sure that everything was sort of thought out the way built my
Mhm.
house. I just built it.
Yeah.
I was preoccupied with technology, the integration of technology, but
Yeah,
she was a little bit more preoccupied with sustainability. So it'll be an
I
interesting
see.
conversation. She knows a lot about the subject, so
Would love
so
to.
I
Yeah, but
recommend that. Yeah.
yeah. So the mode is less is more. You know, with less you can do more. I mean,
I think less is what's necessary. I don't think you
at
have
this
to even
point,
say more. I think it's what's necessary. I think that it's very easy to be in a consumer pattern because it feels good to buy things. Frankly, we're sort of addicted to it to get something
mhm,
on Amazon and have somebody knock on your door until you have a package.
it's so
It seems
easy.
like Christmas.
So,
It seems like Christmas
yes,
all the
every
time,
day. Yeah,
and it's kind of addictive, but really, buy the necessary and
yeah,
yeah. And then another thing that I've been doing actually, which is inspired by Kimberly, is I've been donating and giving away lots of stuff. So that you never what there's so many people, even here in the United States, that have needs, Edgar, that are in poverty. It's just unbelievable the impact you can have on people, just even here in the
yeah.
U.S. Um, Anyway,
No,
it's been an interesting, and it's reflected. This minimalism is reflected on Beacon because one of the things that bothered me, Edgar, about video conferencing is how crowded when you're talking to someone, they have menu buttons and all that all over the place.
yeah,
And, they have this and that and the other thing. And we wanted, well, I wanted a clean interface. So what we did is simple idea. Again, there's no rocket science going on here. Is the menus appear when you join, and if you don't need them, they
they go away. Yeah,
slide out of vision. If you move your mouse, or if you're on a mobile device, you touch your screen, they slide back in, so you can use them. So
they're
really,
pretty slick. Yeah,
yes, and it's really to augment communication. Yeah, I don't want it to feel like you're talking to,
a device. Yeah,
in a device. Yeah, that I'm talking to Edgar.
yeah, yeah.
And in
And you have
fact,
the
yeah, Edgar,
menu
I don't know if
bar.
you
Yeah,
know that you can even eliminate the name on the bottom. There's an
yeah.
option to not even display the name of the person, that
Who's
you're
in there?
completely just focused on them. Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, but going back to Beam, it's that combination of Twitch, Discord, and a lot of people, that
yeah,
don't
YouTube,
use
a little bit of
Twitch,
YouTube also.
YouTube. Yeah, so how did
Discord
you
is
come up
good.
with that
Listen,
idea? Well, how
let's
did
not minimize
Theodore?
Discord. Discord is
Yeah,
good. It's a really good platform. That's a phenom. They rejected a huge offer. It wasn't 80 million, in the
yeah.
billions.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, no, they're good. They're a good platform. We're borrowing some of their ideas. We can't compete with them. They're so ingrained. On Twitch, on the other hand, we think we can compete with them,
Okay,
and they're owned by Amazon.
I know,
Those
I know they
kids,
were
those
bought
kids
by
that
Amazon.
started
Yeah,
that started Twitch got $920 million for it, however many years it was,
yeah.
and it's still the same technology. It's still the same technology. They haven't really advanced anything. In
And
fact, it's
what
gotten,
are the
I
main?
think, worse.
And
So
that's what I've heard from creators or yeah, content creators that but I've
no,
never because I don't use.
send them to our Beam
We have some of the
page to sign up
gamers.
for the beta. When it
Yeah.
launches, they'll be very impressed. And if they're not, I'll blame Theodore for it.
We'll go fetch him in Portugal.
That's
Yeah.
right. He does live in Portugal. You're right. So anyway, Edgar, it's just I just wanted to communicate to your audience that as you can you can feed your mind with the media and think the world is going to hell in a basket or
In a
whatever the
basket,
phrase is.
yeah. We're going down in
And I don't know what the
flames.
phrase is, but something like that. I've never used it. That's why I don't know it. And a handbasket, and a handbasket,
And yeah,
and so or you can see that all changes are slightly painful when you
mhm,
have to lose something to gain something else. It's a really, we should be optimistic and we should be excited about the possibilities that are coming our way. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to
no,
be
no,
easy. But we must focus on what's essential, and what's essential is right now is defragmenting human communication. That is
yes.
essential. And as we approach that, when I get together with my friends, let's Kimberly and Angela, for example, and they invite me for sushi once in a while at their home, and I go there and we sit down to talk. There's so many different views that we have, but it's like that rainbow, right? It's like that
Right.
beautiful
Yeah.
process of somebody you love and care for that just happens to have a different opinion. And I always learn something, and I hope that they always learn something too in the process by having
Which is
contrasting ideas. So
which is something that we gotta go back to it rather than just like the ability to absorb information rather than just like be in shock and
I don't know. When I
yeah.
grew up in a Hispanic culture, at least this is I never speak that way, but I will now. It's kind of mandatory that you learn how to talk to people. So they
Mhm.
will sit down. When people visit, they don't watch television. I don't know now. Maybe now it's different. But when I was growing up, is people come to visit and they come in and they're in the living room or outside, and then there's coffee and all that, and then conversations start
Yep.
and people start talking, and it's all about that. And then I can't remember what it's called, but my family had this tradition. There's a name for it, but you may know it. That when you finish dinner, you stay on the table to have a conversation. It's called something mesa. I can't remember.
Sobremesa.
Sobremesa. That's it. Thank you.
Sobremesa. Yeah.
Sobremesa.
It's kind of like the
Sobremesa is
after yeah.
after you sit down. Somebody,
Yeah.
they may bring coffee for those that drink coffee at night or something, and you sit down and you have conversation. That's what I'm trying. Really, it's as simple as that. Like the
Yeah.
conversation, Edgar, that you and I are having right now. We've never met each other. We feel like we're friends already through Beacon, and you are resonating to the way that I think, and I'm resonating to the way that you think. That's the
Absolutely.
beauty of life right there, and
I
that's
love
the
it.
success for Beacon.
I love it. You just bring a smile to my face, and the next time we see each other is going to be fishing because I remember that from our last conversation. We have the fishing trip pending. I
That's
know you're
right.
like,
That's
oh,
right. In Mexico, you recommended a place in Mexico, which I'm still waiting for you
and
to invite, that I've
I
never
no, no,
been
no.
to. And
I told
I talked to a friend of mine, and he told me it's fabulous there. So,
it is fabulous. The invitation is there because it's gorgeous. I mean, it's almost easy fishing. It's like almost too easy.
uh-huh.
And I don't know if I
And
told
it's
no,
not very
I
populated. He told me that
not at
it's not
all.
very
No,
touristy.
it's
Mhm.
not touristy at all. It's still small. The last time we got this is after a conversation with a private chef, a friend of ours that works on a super yacht. Fishing. We caught a couple of mahi mahis, and he brings out all his sushi now. Like, you guys want sashimi?
Oh, that's
Sashimi right there on the boat,
fantastic.
and
Wow.
he had already prepped some things. Like, all right, for the next one, oh, you guys want
Uh-huh.
ceviche? Boom, fresh
Uh-huh.
ceviche right there. Oh, like, oh, it was
Nice.
unbelievable.
Nice. Okay,
But
well,
my mouth is
keep me
what
on your
next time.
email list for your next trip. I will.
Well, you say
That's a
when.
definite, by the way. I know a lot of people, listen, I know that a lot of people say these things and then you forget, but I'm not that way.
I know, and like I said, I haven't forgotten. And like I told you, there's a direct flight from Dallas, so you really
Even
have
if I had
almost
to
no
do a
excuse.
stop, yeah, so I would do it still. So anyway, but appreciate the invitation. I'll definitely will go.
Thank you.
But yeah, the only message that I would like to leave with your audience is the fact that life is what you make it. You don't no one, my favorite quote, and I will misquote him. I'm a quote collector. Like I have
Yeah.
multitude of quotes in my head, and the one that I like the most is the one that I always forget, and it's from Leonardo da Vinci. And he says that in his life he discovered that people of accomplishment did not wait for things to happen, they happened to things.
Okay.
And that's exactly what I'm telling your audience is happen to things. Don't wait around for
Happen to
things to
things. Yeah,
happen.
you
Happen to things. Yeah.
kind of like Nike. Just do it. Just go. You be the
Yeah, like
driver.
Nike, just do it, happen things. I
You
like
be
that a
the
lot.
driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, you be the driver. Yeah, if you want to make things happen, you gotta do them. You don't. You
You
just don't
gotta
sit
do
and
it.
wait for the thing.
Let's
Yeah,
stop pointing fingers and let's stop
roll up your
criticizing
sleeves
and
like this.
judging and wasting time, and
Yeah.
let's unite in a human chorus that can be heard by the aliens that are probably watching us. I don't believe in it, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? I used to not believe a lot of things, and look, things keep getting happening, keep getting weirder. But Angel, thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias just for
Muchas
coming here.
gracias,
Now,
Edgar.
hang on, but before we go, where can people just subscribe to the beta, to
Oh
Beam,
wow, I'm gonna forget the URLs, but I will try my best.
or
So
will you
if
send
they
them to
want,
Beam?
there, I can give me a chance.
Yeah.
If they wanted to sign up for Beacon, for the free version of Beacon, that's beaconx.com. If they wanted to bookmark Beacon Max, we just bought the domain beaconmax.com, and it has a coming soon splash page there. And then for people that are interested in Beam, it's inthebeam.com/beta, I think. And hopefully that's it. And it will take you to the beta. You may want to check it on your computer, make sure that it takes you to the
And I
final.
will post it so people, we're gonna
Yeah.
start distributing so people can check it
Yeah.
out. Obviously,
And by the way, if your audience forgets in the beam and they think it's into the beam, that also works.
oh, okay,
So
okay,
we have both domains, yeah. Mhm. So
perfect, perfect.
so the domains are beaconx.com, beaconmax.com, and inthebeam.com.
Awesome. And remember that. So the next time we see, we have a new episode, it's going to be in the Baja. It's going to be
That
live,
would be
hopefully
fantastic,
sooner.
right there, live
And
we'll do it on
from
we'll
Baja,
do it on Beam.
we'll do a beam and on a boat. Yes, while eating fresh sashimi. Angel, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your
Thank you,
time. I
Edgar,
know
for
you're
having me
super
on the
busy.
show.
Thank
Mhm.
you so much for everyone listening, and we'll see each other next week.
Adios.